All right, one of the pleasures of being on Radio Row with Vinny Curry is when he gets to run into a teammate. And we have with us now Gerald McCoy, the former All-Pro NFL defensive tackle. Gerald is the co-host of McCoy and Van Noy on Yahoo Sports, which is recording from the Toyota Land Cruiser set on Radio Row this week. Tune into McCoy and Van Noy with Gerald McCoy and Kyle Van Noy on Yahoo Sports. The show brings fans inside the locker room and breaks down the game through a player's point of view, and that's what we're here to get, a player's point of view. Two guys who played together. Mm-hmm. Gerald, you have good, like, Vinny Curry memories.
You know, when we play football, every player, regardless of position, kickers included, you have to have a couple screws loose.
Yeah.
You know, everybody, all of us have them. Vinny just happened to have a couple extra screws that are loose. You know, I have multiple in my own right, but Vinny has some. You know, when you're trying to fix something and you're trying to figure out, man, where is this screw? And then you look under, you like, oh shoot, all 5 of these screws is loose. That's what we found out with Vinny. You move something back, you're like, oh, he got about 10 screws loose under there. We thought it was just 4. But nah, man, I tell you something about him. He loves the game. Him being a champion is no surprise because of how he played the game. There's a way to play this game. You can't just go out there and play it. There is a way to play the game, and Vinny played the game right. And I didn't have a lot of teammates who played the game right. Obviously, with the success we didn't have in Tampa, he played with a lot of guys who did play the game right, which is why they had so much success. But I was fortunate in our short time of playing together to be around him who played the game the right way. It wasn't about him. It wasn't about his stats. It wasn't about I need to go get it. It was about what do we need to do to be successful as a team? And when you haven't won and you bring in a guy who has won, it doesn't matter how much individual success you've had. LeBron James was the MVP of the NBA. He learned how to win from Dwayne Wade, who was already a champion.
Sure.
And learning how to win, I just wasn't fortunate enough to be in Tampa long enough when they did win.
I know.
But there's a lot of things I learned about how you win. This is what we did in Philly. This is how we won because we did this. I understand this ain't how this work here, but I'm telling you, this works. And you can either take the info and understand you might be individually successful, but there's a reason you haven't won. This is what we did as a unit. And this is why we won. And that's what Vinny brought.
It's hard in a league, in a game where there are so many players, and it's not just one player who matters. And like the NBA, where that could be the case. Vinny, you have talked a lot about the Eagles culture and what makes it successful, as you have been in other places. What is it that stands out about that?
Oh man, just understanding the end all be all, at the end of the tunnel there's a light, and what all the overall purpose is of the goal. So. Yeah, it's crazy, which brings me to my next question. Down that we here versus, the Eagles-Chiefs Sunday. Gerald, we have to ask, what do you think about Jalen Carter?
So, some people are naturally gifted and overly talented, and that's gotten them to where they're at. And Jalen Carter is so gifted and so talented. The crazy thing is he's an all-pro in year 2, and he don't even know how to play football. And if you know football and know what, literally the game, you know what I'm talking about. He's making all the plays he's making off sheer instinct right now. Being a dog, having natural gifts and ability. Vinny knows what I'm saying because he's been in a meeting with me where I'm telling you, this is the protection. This is happening. He's sliding this way. Vinny, go over there. I'm going to go over here. They going to double team. I'll hold him. You go around. He's not doing that yet.
Yeah.
And look at what he is. Imagine when he actually learns to play the game of football where he's winning the rep before the rep. That's when NFL honors, either his name is going to be called or when they list the finalists, he'll be in there every year. He's that level of player.
How long did that take for you?
I made my first Pro Bowl in year 3.
Is that when you felt like you understood the game more or no?
I made my first Pro Bowl in year 3. I was an All-Pro in year 4. I didn't learn how to play football until year 5.
Okay.
It's crazy you say that because I want to go way back to like when the first couple episodes I was saying, man, we were talking about you, and I said, yo, Gerald was like a quarterback on the D line. He'll tell you, especially like you have like one of those brain farts, like, damn, what was the play? Don't look at me like that. You know what you did. I mean, it's like, because we're talking about communication between Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter. But it was like, yo, Vinny, you play with guys like that, and I brought you up on that. I was like, boy, I can tell you, if a run hit, he know what linebacker or what safety was supposed to be in the box or who wasn't there. So
that's how you got to be, man. That's why I was offended when Tom Brady said defenders ain't smart. I'm like, hey, you speak for whoever you play with. Listen, the way I play, I was limited athletically. I didn't have what Jalen Carter had or even what Fletch had. I didn't run a fast 40. I didn't lift the 225 a lot at the combine. I had a great get off in my mind. I tried to make sure I was the smartest dude in the room, and I won the rep before it happened. So I put myself in position to where it's like, man, how the heck did he get back there so fast? Because I knew what was coming. I knew he wasn't going here because he's sitting right there. Why would he go over here? That's stupid. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go.
And
go ahead, Vinny.
And I want to say this. One of the things that I learned from you, right? Because you got to have great ears, and you got to, willing to learn from somebody at a time. One of the greatest things, I ain't gonna say one of the things. One of the greatest things I learned from you, even from our stay down in Tampa when I came back to Philly, that I used was, my man, why are you using that? You trying to beat the man in practice, or you trying to beat the man you're going against on Sunday?
Yeah.
Well, I'm like, at first I was like, what do you mean? And then you go back to it. Now you're trying that move that you've been trying all week. It ain't working.
Interesting.
But
that's not how he's going to block you.
Right.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying.
I took that and
that's
ran with
it. Learn to play the game. If I'm prepping for Lane Johnson, who I knows is going to cheat the count, and he blocks a certain way, why am I trying to beat Bernard in practice so I can get in meetings? Good job, good rush. That ain't going to beat Lane.
That's great.
So you lose reps in practice so you can be ready for the game. Yes. There's been times, Vinny will tell you, I couldn't sniff the quarterback in practice. You know why? Because I'm not worried about beating him.
Right.
I know I can beat him. I beat him all training camp. I have to get ready for them. And that's what a lot of people don't understand about knowing how to play football.
I think it's interesting because there's, to the Brady point, I think there's a misperception that, like, the smart guys on defense play linebacker or safety, right? And that defensive line is just sort of all about talent. And so, like, I think we've actually seen this with Jalen, some improvement over the course of the season. Like, when he wins that Rams game, it's because he's been setting up that fake stunt. He fakes it and then beats the guy right away, right?
But we also got to take into granted, so Tom Brady's always played 20 years.
Yeah.
So that's how it was 20 years
Can I
ago.
break that down even more?
Sure.
So he fakes the stunt, right?
Yeah.
You know why it worked? It didn't work because he set it up properly. You know why it worked? It's because he had help. Nolan Smith had been beating on Havenstein all game.
Okay.
The protection slides to the right.
Yep.
Okay. When Jalen comes down, he knows he's at to balance the rush. When he jabs that center, the center looks. But the only reason the center looks, if the center knew he didn't have help, he wouldn't have looked to the left.
Okay.
He thought he had help with the guard. The guard was so worried about Nolan Smith. When they slide this way, the guard's job is to sit and hold in the A, but keep eyes on the end. Nolan was burning that edge so fast that the guard said, forget Jalen, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I'm going to help with him because he's getting killed on the edge.
Yeah.
Jalen said, here I go. Oh, you gone? I'm going to just go. Because Nolan was doing what he was doing, it helped Jalen at the end of the game. And now the protection has to decide who's more dangerous. Well, obviously the guy in the middle is the most dangerous, but that should let y'all know the level that Nolan has been playing at because they said he's so dangerous with what he's been doing all game. I would rather go get him now than block this guy that's right in the middle. And they did it 2 times in a row. I talked to Cooper Kupp. He was in studio in the NFL Network, and I said, I broke it down in front of him afterwards. He was like, bro, they did it 2 plays in a row. I said, yeah, that was stupid. I mean, you just can't do it. But
I want to say that the series before that, Nolan was cooking.
Yes.
Yeah. I think I sat, boom, and he was starting to heat up. They were trying to slow that momentum down, which I'm a little biased. Nolan Smith is one of my favorite players on the defense.
Yeah. I mean, listen, because
that dude's a beast.
Because Vinny played the game the right way. When you see a guy who you might not look at the paper. Man, this dude got 15 sacks. Watch the game. I'll give you an example, and Philly's not going to like this. Chris Jones.
Yeah.
As great as he's been, he'll go into Canton, and they'll list Chris Jones, defensive tackle. The greatest plays he's made in his career in the playoffs, he's been a defensive end.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's a Swiss Army knife. But last week in the AFC Championship, arguably the greatest game I've ever seen him play. I'll tell you why. What he did to the offensive line was so demoralizing that it changed the whole aspect of the whole way they were calling games. He was taking the right tackle and putting them 3 yards in backfield. The right guard, the center, the left guard, and the left tackle. He was going up and down the line.
Pick a guy, kill
just
him. Yeah.
taking them and putting them 3 and 4 yards in the backfield. Fletch used to do it from guard to guard.
Yes.
Guard, center, guard.
Yeah.
Fletch, it didn't matter. I'm going to pick on you. Chris is doing it from tackle to tackle, and he did it last week in such a way that James Cook was running through the defense, and they just stopped using him.
Yeah.
Now, Josh Allen starts to speed up his operation. The offensive coordinator starts to change how he's calling the game because this guy
We're in the panic mode.
everywhere. It does not matter. And he's taking grown men and saying, hey, you're going to do what I said do. And I watched Fletch do it over and over. That's what Chris did last week. That's not going to show up on the stat sheet. But I guarantee you, Kellen Moore, when he's breaking his film down, he sees it.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the impact that these guys have that he's talking about with Nolan Smith, which we know what that leads to. Broken protections and leaving an all-pro defensive tackle one-on-one with a center or just not blocking him. That's what impact can do without being on the stat sheet.
So for this game, to me, one of the most interesting questions is how do the Chiefs in the middle of their offensive line decide to try to block Jalen Carter and Milton Williams? Do you think that Trey Smith can handle Jalen Carter one-on-one so you can double-team Milton Williams, or are you double-teaming Jalen Carter so Milton can maybe win those one-on-ones against their left guard, which is probably their weakness? How would you attack it? How do you think that they will try to do it?
I told Milton last night, I said, yo, bro, I'm
Milton
so
is
proud.
my guy,
Yeah,
man. I remember when Milton came out of college, he was training where I was rehabbing. So it's great to see Milton play.
I was just about, so I told him, I said, man, yo, congratulations, man. Like, you take advantage of every opportunity. What's what you call taking advantage of every one-on-one opportunity you get.
Yeah. Milton, man, you know, a guy like that who had all the physical gifts, came from a smaller school, and Philly took a chance on him, man. He's making the most of it. But to answer your question, it's going to be on Andy Reid. It's not going to be on the offensive line. I did an interview earlier, and they said, what's the not obvious thing that can win this game? How the offensive line blocks Philly when it matters.
Right.
You have 60, I'll say you're going to have 57 minutes of Andy Reid to be able to diagnose his defense.
Yeah.
And at the end of the game, we've seen it. Last year versus the 49ers, he drew it up. Patrick Mahomes has grown up here. We know that. But last year on that 2-minute drive, all he did was he's wide open, step out, he's wide open, that's being drawn up. This year in the AFC Championship, when they ice the game, send everybody this way, pull it, leak him out, drop it off. Go this way, have everybody look that way, P. Ryan leak out, just drop it off. That's drawn up.
Yeah.
When the Kansas City Chiefs played the Pittsburgh Steelers on Christmas, and they talked about how fast Patrick Mahomes is getting the ball out. I love working around Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Kurt Warner broke that down, and he said, people think getting the ball out fast is just a plan. There's a technique to it. You have to do that before the play. So it ain't just my first read, give him the ball. That's not how it works. You got to manipulate the defense a certain way. You got to know he's going to be here. You got to, shift him. No, you go over here because this is going to be open. If it's not, look and put it here. That's being drawn up, but they have the perfect operator in Patrick Mahomes. So it's not going to be on the offensive line to be able to do this all game. But at some point, Nolan Smith is going to be right there. Jalen Carter is going to be right there. And Milton is going to be over there. And a guy who's been hit and sacked more than he's been since he's been a starter is going to have to deal with those guys blocking those guys one-on-one or however they do it. You see the Rams panicked. The Commanders couldn't do it. But none of those teams had Andy Reid calling the plays. And that's where I start to break down the game and start to see, okay, what can happen. But you got 57 minutes of dealing with something that can't be coached. Speed. Philly has all of the speed in the world. I call them the Philadelphia Bulldogs or the Georgia Eagles. They done brought in all these guys from Georgia with speed, and this is what they do, man. They got speed at the front, middle, and the back end. And you can't coach speed, but you know what you also can't coach, which is what he had when he came to Tampa, experience.
Yeah.
And that's what this game comes down to.
There you go.
Man, that's what you call dropping the mic.
Gerald McCoy, everybody.
Yeah.
You can find McCoy and Van Noy on Yahoo Sports, YouTube, and all major podcast platforms. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you
Of
so
course,
much,
man. This is my family, man. You thought I want to go sit down with my brother? Of course, man.
Appreciate you, man.
Much more on the other side here on PHLY.